Hi, welcome to our Flash training video. Flash is used by over 1 million developers worldwide. 474 million users have the Flash player installed on their browsers. It's high impact content with rich media applications. Flash is vector based, allows it to have a faster download time than bitmaps, and lets the streaming appear immediately. We're just going to get to the basics of what bitmaps and what vectors are. On the left we've got a bitmap image, on the right we've got a vector image. I'm just going to select them and I'm going to resize them. And we're going to see the difference between bitmap images and vector images. Just going to make it a little bit bigger here and click off of it. On the left we can see that the bitmap image has gone fuzzy and doesn't resize well, whereas the vector image on the right resized very well with clear appearance, and it's better for high resolution. It also requires less memory than the bitmap image. Bitmaps are based on a pattern of dots, whereas the vectors are based on a formula that represents the image. It actually requires less memory than the bitmap does. Vectors are used for illustrations, whereas bitmaps should be used for photos. And in Flash here we can use a little bit of both here, although most of your Flash content will be vector. This is our basic Flash environment, where we've got the toolbox on the left, we've got the timeline here in the middle, we've got the stage just below it, we've got some panels here on the right, and we've got the menu here at the top, and we've got a quick menu here just below it. The menu covers basics and common functions. On the left here we've got the toolbars, which is divided into tools at the top, view and colors in the center, and options in the bottom. The first tool in the toolbar here is the arrow tool. We can access this by pressing V on the keyboard, or we can click on it to select this tool. This tool is used as a basic selection tool for selecting objects and readjusting the shapes. The next tool beside it is the sub-selection tool. We can access this by pressing A on the keyboard, and this is used to display points on lines and shape outlines. It's also to modify lines and outlines by adjusting the points. The third tool here we have is the line tool. We can access this by pressing N on the keyboard. I'm just going to draw a simple line or a stroke here. We can adjust the color that we're going to be drawing in the colors area here. Draw a green one, and we're going to make them intersect. We can see down here at the bottom properties, which you can open up by selecting the triangle here, and this opens up the properties. We can also adjust the colors here. We can adjust the stroke height, and we can adjust the kind of stroke, the stroke style. We can use hairline, dashed, dotted, or if we want we can select through the custom, and we can select the different custom, the thickness as what we were doing earlier, and we can also select the different types here. It's going to stick with the basic type, and as we can see we've drawn two cross lines. So one more thing to remember about vector graphics. It's going to use the arrow tool to illustrate this. And with this, once we select it, we're only selecting half of it. Where it's intersected is where the vector graphic has ended. And this is one thing to keep in mind about vector graphics, that they do cut themselves. Once I select it, I can move the certain part of it because it has cut where it's been intersected. So the vector graphics are cutting where the intersection between other vector graphics occur. As we can see, when I move the selection tool on top of it, I get an arch here where I'm able to arch the line if need be. And this would be how we would be arching lines if we wanted to. And we're just going to go over the sub-selection tool now for a bit. And as what we see here, we've got the squares on the end, which allows us to adjust the different shapes here. Sometimes a little hard to adjust. We can adjust the shape of the arc this way also, with the subselection tool. And this allows us to adjust the shape of the arc. If we have a more complex image, this tool comes in a little bit more useful. The next tool that we're going to be discussing is the lasso tool, L on your keyboard. We can see when we press it, our options also in the bottom left hand corner change. We're given an option of a magic wand. We're able to use the magic wand to make selections. If we want to adjust magic wand properties, we would select this, and we're able to adjust the threshold or adjust the smoothing to either pixels, rough, normal, or smooth. And this is how we would be adjusting our magic wand properties. Magic wand is used to select an area. As you can see, I've selected the area here, and I can take this area now and I can move it, or I can make a whole entire selection here and I could do the same. I could move it. Or if I want, I can enter the polygon mode of the lasso tool. Just going to move the screen up a little bit more. I'm going to close the properties so we're able to see what's going on. And the polygon mode, what this does is creates a shape around the area, the selected area, and once it's joined, we're able to select the information that was in between the polygon area and do the same. We're able to move it, adjust it, delete it. We can shrink it if we want, we can resize it if we want, and it allows us basically to select a certain area that we want to adjust. Next tool in the toolbox is the pen tool. We can get to this by pressing P on the keyboard, or we can just click it down here. And what the pen tool does, it's used to create precise curved or straight lines. So we're just going to use it here to create a square, or somewhat of a square. As we can see when we're drawing it, it creates editable points, which we're able to edit as we need to create the proper effect that we were looking for. We're able to adjust the arch and the curve of the lines. The next one that we have here on the toolbox is the text tool, also accessed by pressing the T on the keyboard. We'll see a little bit more here in the properties. And we just select anywhere that we want. Currently we have static text selected. We've got a choice between dynamic text and input text. And what the different text styles are, static text allows us just to write our basic standard static text. If we select dynamic text, this gives us a few more options on what the text will be. We can put a variable name or we can put an instance name into it, which would allow us to, if I want to call this text variable 1, once we play the movie, if I've got a value assigned to this variable 1, it will show up in the dynamic text. And then we've got the input text, where right now it's input text. So when we play the movie, we're going to have an area where we can input text and it will be stored under variable 1. We're going to show you how to do this a little bit later on in the video. Then of course we're going to just go over the static text. We've got the style here, the font style. We've got the height of the text. We've got the color, the fill color, the bold, italic. We've got the alignment here, the justification. We're able to adjust the space, character auto kern off and on. We're able to format the text with an indent, line spacing, left margin, right margin. We've got the X and not Y variable positions. We've got the width and the height of the instance. We've got here if the text is going to be selectable once the movie's played. If you check this off here, once we play the movie, the text will no longer be selectable by the person using it. And we've got a few other options here. If we were to link this text to a certain URL, we could enter in the URL here that the text would link to. When the movie's played, what would happen? We would be able to select this text and it would bring us to this URL link here. And then we've got the target for the URL here. We're going to go over this again a little bit later on in the videos. The next tool in our selection is the oval tool, or O, on your keyboard. Just going to move the screen down a little bit more here. And this basically what it does, it draws an oval shape. You can adjust the oval shape by the way that you move your mouse. The next one that we have is the rectangle tool, or R on your keyboard. Draws a rectangle. If we want a rectangle with smooth edges, we select in the options and we can change the corner points to a number, where when we draw the rectangle we're able to have rounded corners. The next tool available to us is the pencil tool, or Y on your keyboard. And what this does, we've got an option here also for the different mode. We're able to have a straighten mode, a smooth mode, or an ink mode. The difference between all these modes, if I draw in the straight mode, it draws a straight line. If we were to go crooked with it, it would draw kind of a crooked. If we want to draw smooth, this will smoothen out the line. And if we want to draw ink, this will no longer smoothen out our line. It'll just keep it the way that we draw it. The next one is the brush tool, or B on the keyboard. And selecting this, we're given a few options also. And the options we can select here from the brush mode. We're able to have paint with the normal. We're able to paint only in the fills. So if we select that, I should change it to a different color here so we can see what's going on. And as we can see, it paints only in the filled areas here. We can change it to paint behind, and we can see that it paints behind our circle shape here. Paint selection. And this, what it does, it's just painting the selected area. We don't have any area selected currently, that's why it wasn't able to paint on it. If we were to make a selection, we would be able to paint in that particular area. And the last one is to paint inside. It's the opposite of what we were just doing. And we're able to see here that the paint inside is basically the same thing as painting behind. It's painting the inside area. We can see a better example here where we've got an actual inside that we're trying to paint, and it allows us to paint inside of this area. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get it to work properly, but here we go. We're just painting on the inside of this shape here. We can adjust the brush strokes here to different sizes, and we can also adjust the brush to different shapes. And we've got an area here to lock the filled area, so we could do that too if we wanted to. And we would be able to lock that area in there. The next selection tool is the free transform tool. So we're going to select that. So I have to select an area before I can use this tool, which I'm going to select like this and use the free transform tool, or Q, on my keyboard. The options, we have rotate and skew, which we're able to skew and we're able to rotate it. We're able to change the scale of it. We're able to distort it. And we're able to envelope it. So this gives us a little bit of play about how we're going to make our shape look. And we're able to select the different here to change the arcs, and we're able to change the actual shape and the size of the object that we're working with. The next tool that we have is the free transform tool, which is F on your keyboard. The way that the fill transform tool works, We're going to select an area here that we're going to paint with a gradient. We just selected the circle area there and we filled it with a gradient. Now we can select with the fill and we're able to adjust the gradient this way. And we've got a few options here. We can make it larger and we can make it smaller and we can rotate it. The next tool that we're going to talk about is the ink bottle tool. And for this, what we're going to have to open up here is the properties. And what we need to do, we're going to select an area, a line here that we're going to change from a solid line to a dotted line. So as you can see, I'm able to select on top of the line and change it into dotted lines where there was no line before, or if I want, I can change it into a dashed. Depending on what I'm selecting, I'm able to adjust that with this tool. The next is the paint bucket tool. This one, we've got a few options down here. We're able to paint by not closing the gaps. We're able to paint by closing small gaps, medium gaps, and large gaps. Now this comes in useful when I'm painting objects that I'm not sure if their gaps are going to be closed. So if I select here to paint, I'm able to, because I've got the close small gaps here, I don't necessarily need to have a full circle in order to finish my painting. Just going to draw another one here as an illustration. So here, just going to change this back to the solid line because I don't want to have it open like that. And we want to use the paint tool. I'm going to select to paint here, and as you can see, I'm not able to. But if I select close large gaps, oops, still not big enough. Sometimes a little hard to tell here. But on some of them, if you're choosing small gaps, it won't paint. And when you change it to the larger gaps, it does paint it. So it does enclose the different gap sizes. The next tool that we're going to be using is the eyedropper tool. And this is used to select a different color for the brush. And as you can see, once we use the eyedropper, we're switched back to the paint bucket tool, and then we're able to use that. It's a quicker way to grab a certain color and change the color of different objects. And the next tool that we've got here is the eraser tool, or E on the keyboard. And we're given a few options here for the eraser tool, the eraser mode. We've got an option to erase normally, which just erases, oops, I think I adjusted, yeah, we erase basically everything in our path. The next option is to erase fills, and as you can see, it only erases the area that was filled. The next option is to erase lines, and as we can see, we've erased only the line area. Erase selected fills, so what we would have to do, we would have to select an area, and then we could erase the selected fills like that. And we've got the erase inside, where we're able to erase from the inside out here. So once again, it's just like the other one where it's a little bit difficult sometimes to catch it, but once we're going from the inside out, we're only erasing this part. Depends on how the vector's judging it, of course. The next one is the faucet, and by selecting that, and this is a useful tool for erasing certain areas. We just select the area that we want to erase and it erases it. Sometimes it's a lot simpler to use than the erasing tool. For the eraser tool itself, we've got the different shapes that we're able to use. It's going to go back to the normal erase, and as we can see, we've changed now to a square shape. We're able to change the size of it, and we're able to change back to an oval shape. In the view area, we've got the hand tool, which basically helps us adjust the screen area, where we can take it, we left click on the mouse, hold it down, and we're able to move our screen area around as we need to see it. We've got the zoom tool, the Z or the M, where we can zoom in and we're able to zoom out with the negative. Always look at what your options are for the different tools that you've selected to be able to see what's available to you for using. We're able to zoom right in and zoom right out. The colors that we've talked, we also see the screen sizes here. If we want to adjust the level, we're able to see 800%, or we're able to see 25%, show all, show frame, depending on how we want to view the document. And then we're able to zoom in and zoom out, of course. We've got the different colors for the strokes, where we can adjust the color this way. If we don't see the color that we want to use, we've got a little area here where we can open up color selection tool, and we're able to select all the different colors, the different hues, and the colors that we want it to do. We could add that color into our custom colors, and then we'd be able to use that to do our drawing with. And we also have basically the same function here for this one. We're able to open up the color area, and we're able to select our customized color and add it to our custom color area and select OK, and that way we're able to have a whole bunch of different kinds of custom colors. If we want to change from black to white, when I press this button, just watch what happens. Changes it from the color to the black and to white. If we want to reverse it, to swap the colors, so this would swap between the stroke and the fill, and this is just a simple way to do a quick swap if you want to do a reverse color. If we want to have no colors, we have an option to do that too. And this was the basics of Flash, the toolbars that you'd be using to develop your Flash site. Just gonna shrink it, and I'm just gonna clear it for now. I selected with the selection tool, left clicked, went over the entire screen, and I'm just pressing delete on the keyboard in order to clear our screen for the next set of examples. We've got one more thing here that I've never talked about, the snap to objects. What this is, once it's selected, if I want to draw, I'm just going to draw a circle here, go back and I'm going to snap it to objects. What it does, it gives us a snap area. If I've got another object, once the snap is on, it's easier to maneuver back over the shape. So I don't know if you got that, but it makes it simpler to be able to add and to move across different shapes. Also got it here on the quick menu here. Just going to add another shape in just to demonstrate this one more time, where we're using the snap, and it gives us an option to align things a little bit better than we normally would. If the snap is off and I'm adjusting this shape, I have more freedom of where the shape goes, but it might be a little bit more difficult to line things up. And then of course here I've got the smoothing and I've got the straightening, the same as I have the smoothing and the straightening down here. So there's my smoothing and there's my straightening. Oops. Just doing this, what was selected. So this was smoothing it, and that's straightening the objects.